What's going on, workforce? Brian and Chris here, and we're diving into Friday. What are our top expectations? What do we hope to see from the next live letter? Chris is going to be covering on Twitch. I actually am going to be at a family thing, and when I get back from it, I'm going to either be drinking from the fire hose of emotion, or at least getting caught up on what's the latest that is going to be for sale from Japan. That usually means it's the end of the stream. Chris, I'm going to take it to you first and foremost. What are your expectations? What are your hopes? What are your what is it that you love to see? What would have you leaving Friday elated? What do you think?
So first of all, it's going to be long because it's live translated. So the live translated ones are strap in, have food, have caffeine. So what am I expecting? I'm expecting a lot. Just as far as quantity goes. This is kind of the first big one to move us towards patch content of Endwalker. So there's going to be a fair bit of let's just look back. How did we do on the servers? And thank you guys for all the support. And here's how we're feeling. We're starting to get into where we can have a Q&A where they can talk about how they feel about MSQ if they want. So we're starting to get where we're getting out of that spoiler territory kind of on an official capacity standpoint. There's some basics that they're going to go over for anybody that it's been a long time since we were first kind of told what the content plans of Endwalker were. We know Ultimate's coming. I would probably put it in a half patch if it were me, because we have the Alliance raid on launch day. We know that it's time for the new PvP stuff to be here. We know that it's time for housing to open, which means that it's too early to talk about Deep Dungeon. It's too early to talk about Relic.
Is it?
It's too early to talk about Blue Mage. And it's a part one. So we won't get any job balance adjustments announced here. Those would be in a second. So those are kind of just the basic framework. But what's looming over all of this is this 10-year plan. Just just insert that as a line item. I have no idea what that is. None whatsoever. And so I would love to see this being something that focuses on what is the whole team doing, and less of this this is Yoshi-P's game and he just makes this game by himself and he just sits in his coding basement and knocks it out. I would love to see this start to be more scalable. Sometimes it feels like does the whole game get off course if Yoshi-P gets the flu for 2 weeks? And I'm sure he has. He's been working on it for 10 years, and we just don't know.
Yeah, they're not
sometimes
there's no lodestone announcement. Yoshi-P's
right.
got the flu, guys. Oh no.
It just feels oh yeah, he was flying off somewhere for an interview and his flight got canceled, and so now we're all just sitting on our hands. And that's obviously not the case.
Right.
Content has continued to produce, but it publicly, I would love to see some of that kind of just from outside of the game. Inside of the game, I want to know what they're doing to future-proof this game. Are we talking about words like new engine? Are we talking about words like overhauls? Is the trust system going to go backwards compat for at least the 2 MSQ dungeons and the 1 bad trial?
I think we actually have so much we've been told about what's happening on Friday, right? Now, as to how it's executed, it's going to be very interesting, and this is really building upon the years of the game itself. And so let's just focus in on the media tour. In Gamerscape's interview, Larry Czar, hey guys, we want to tell you all of this stuff, but let's wait until after Endwalker. And then in this case, in terms of time, and I know I'm not, going to get, 100% agreement on this next statement, nor should I, but the concept is at this point in the game right now, when you see that pattern in that cycle, when you see okay, we've had the surge, people have played the story, they've maybe leveled up a couple of jobs, they've done the raids, and then all of a sudden that light bulb, I'm seeing a lot of that conversation online, just like we normally do, of man, I really wish there was challenging 4-man dungeon content. Man, I really wish there was some of these different systems that really kind of feed in. Man, how great would it be to take the leveling dungeons that are in the game right now in Endwalker and make it a, level cap version of them, so you don't feel like you're running the same, 2 to 3 dungeons over and over again. Man, this end game feels exactly like it did the last time and the time before that. So essentially you start catching up, and there's that kind of repeated pattern. That pattern has its strengths. You and I've talked about its strengths and its weaknesses, hands down.
Got them here.
Right. And got them here. It got them exactly where they need to be. But then you start filtering in Yoshi-P's, and then you start talking about the 10-year plan. And so I think essentially the biggest thing that I take away from Yoshi-P that I would love to see him be able to put on display on Friday would be, what MMO would Yoshi-P build? And I believe, he says 14 is his life work. I don't think he's, that's not, hey, we're going to make this new MMO. But now that the story has been complete, now that this whole saga has can be complete, they can do a whole other saga. But when it comes down to like, okay, we need to really close these threads. We really need to do this, because you don't want to have this and then moment. Especially when you talk about new players coming on and still talking about the MSQ gate. Man, how great would it be if I could go play Endwalker? And then I saw somebody tweet out this, and I thought it was excellent in terms of like the community, how it thinks of itself and the actual practical reality. You know what the number 2 most bought item on the cash shop is? It's the
after Fantasia?
Yeah, after Fantasia. Take me to Endwalker, baby. Like, it's just like, I'm skipping, I'm playing Endwalker. And there's reasons, because you have existing players who maybe have a second character. But ultimately, that is like, people want to get into the content that's advertised to them. I want to go to the moon. I want to see what everybody's talking about, for new players coming in now that the game's on sale. So it's fascinating to see. So I'd love to see what Yoshi-P and his vision for 10 years is. The last time he painted us a picture, like in reality, like in that, was back in 1.0. Yep. And so I think essentially, like, I get off my family stuff. I come home, put the kids to bed. It's late. I'm tired. I step upstairs. I boot this thing up. I sit down with you, and I just like get like, do I cry? I don't know. Like, am I going to be like, oh my gosh, I was right, I said it all along? Or it's like, oh, okay, this is just, this is just another round.
New zone, new limited job, hard mode dungeons. Those are the 3 things that make me just,
oh man,
tip the chair.
I still
like,
think
there's just, I don't know how I stay seated for any of those things.
Yeah,
because I just don't expect them. New engine, any new tech. I wasn't here the last time he had one of these. Mm-hmm. I've been playing this game since A Realm Reborn, and when I say like him giving a roadmap like this is rare, it predates me. Like, this is him leading to, you told me about these things at the time. Yeah, these are all the things that telling us. And I was like, that's not weird. You got a guy who's in charge of the game telling you a roadmap. Like, I don't need to tune in for that.
Yeah.
Little did I know that was like the last chance to hear that for a decade. And so, it's been a long time since we've had a roadmap put in front of us. Like, there are many of us that have been around since A Realm Reborn that have never seen Yoshi-P talk in this way. So I really don't have that many expectations other than strap in. And like,
yeah. And it could even be
so confident at the media tour. Like, the amount of swagger he's had feels.
Oh yeah, dude, he's getting ready. So building off that, right? Because we bring up the concept of new tech, new engine, right? Like, I think that essentially if it's not like, hey guys, it's now Friday, and guess what? Tomorrow, new engine. No. It's like, if anything else, it might be a roadmap, to that engine. Hey, you guys keep asking about more retainer space, more of this, more of this. We're hearing you. Here's what this is going to look like. And here's how we're thinking about phasing, that in, because that's going to take a little bit of work. We got to restructure this. We got to do this. And we saw that with the deletion of belts. Like, once they deleted belts, I say they're really kind of like trying to figure out the system and how to make all these things work. You can't do that more than once. You can't be like, well, we really don't need boots, right? So like, ultimately there's got to be some kind of pathway forward. More tech means obviously probably system requirements, and he already announced 7.0. Every time in the past, every time we talk about the next expansion prior to FanFest, he's always cheeky about it. He's always like, what new expansion? What are you talking about? I don't know what's going on, but he's already been like, yeah, 7.0. Like, that's a thing. That's a reality. I'm not going to sit here and be tongue in cheek about it. because it's, you know, at this point, obviously it's like, all right, buddy, we know you're working towards it. But I think essentially what we end up also getting beyond, like, because let's say that ends up being an engine upgrade in which that, hey, we have to raise the minimum requirements. That means this is going to happen, giving players plenty of time to make those like decisions they need to make, but then also painting that kind of picture so that when somebody comes in and is like, yeah, like it'd be great if whatever, hey, that's coming. And the reason you want to be here today is because of X, Y, and Z. Like, it's going to be really cool to have this experience, and who knows what ultimately that's going to look like. I don't think he wants to tear down what he's built, so this isn't going to be like the end. But it's going to be interesting to see if, like, you know, the question that I have, the thing that would make me fall out of my seat is if he says 7.0 will be a new starting point for new players as well. People can come into the game.
No way.
And have that as like a like, hey, create a character and decide if you want to go in chapter A or chapter B. You know, it's like, oh, okay, like, and you can always, you know, new game.
That'd be
plus
mind blowing.
I would literally be like, holy crap, because that would address the continual MSQ creep. Because if
it felt like such a big deal when WoW did it, like, yeah, no way.
I think that would be followed. I would love to see a Beastmaster or Puppet Master. I mean, that's been years, you know, hinted at and rumored at. We saw that kind of, you know, Beastmaster obviously in Boja. So you said like, yeah, maybe it's a little bit too early for like a Blue Mage update, but it'd be so cool to be like, hey guys, here's the next limited job, because that's one of the questions about that system that I'm so intrigued by. It's like, what does a limited system look like when it's not just one job, and then all of a sudden you have multiple? And then obviously, like, outside of the future 10-year plan, I really want to see some more of that. I want to see more of that PvP and what the battle pass looks like, and, you know, more details about obviously what's sell me the 10 years. Sell me 10 years.
I expect the PvP news,
and then feed me on that.
Because it starts with 6.1.
Yeah,
I expect it's time to talk about PvP. The ultimate is going to be some question marks. Maybe they step into the arena and there's no boss. Like, I don't expect to see much there.
Yeah.
I think they're just kind of going to tease us. We know it's Dragon Song War, and that's it. Alliance Raid, Myths of the Realm. Would love to see the inside of the arena.
I don't think we see
but
the inside of the arena until part 2. Typically, screenshots. I mean, like, if we go based off
of gameplay,
if we go based off of like a pattern here, right? And I see chat saying that story, you know, doesn't matter in WoW, but it does in 14. That's why. No, it's like, note that there would be a new story and a new starting point. You'd have the Realm Reborn,
but
and that
for
saga.
WoW, Chromie time and a new starting zone that gives you the basic overall kind of vocabulary. I feel like from the new player like, outside of the fact that what happens at the end of Chromie time, where it just kind of ports you out, I think it feels relatively respectful. Obviously, you can't just pick an expansion and level through that expansion in 14.
Right.
So it needs to be done differently, right? I'm not saying you don't carbon copy things from games, because stuff is integrated. You say, what does that system do for them? And what would an alternative version of that do for us?
Yeah.
And so having a shard that we start new players on that's currently unused, you know, it's referenced in lore and it's unused, and they meet a Sundered Ascian and they fight a Primal and they work, you know, 3 quests with the Beast Tribe, and they have to sell something on a market board and do a leave and learn and join a free company and like do all these things. You know, they work alongside a grand company, like do all these things that are terminology that we all learned through years, because all of a sudden all of that's skipped. All your grand company development is skipped. What the hell is a Primal is skipped. What is Sundering is skipped. What's an Ascian is skipped. Like, just think of the number of things. What is the Empire? Why does that matter? That's all skipped. But if you spin up another shard, you can kind of blast through those things.
Yeah, you could also just
get people up to speed. And when people are like,
yeah,
man, I wish like I knew more about the Empire.
Oh,
that's what New Game Plus is for.
Boop,
like,
boop.
I have such good news. We have a wealth of content, and if they would let you level an alternate job, like New Game Plus let you get experience, maybe just one time, that would say like, hey, you know, I've never leveled melee, or I'm a new player and I want to know about this. Great. Why don't you pick up one of those melee jobs and just go blast through all the old stuff? But what's nice about that is if you get through like half of ARR and then a new patch comes out, pause it, do the new stuff, and then go back and pick up where you left off. And so it starts to be something that fills these dead zones when people finish the patch content, but the next patch hasn't arrived yet.
Right.
And so, like, if there is a new player experience, it's possible, but it needs to be something that is heavily shaped at catching people up, not just on story. It's not about like, oh, it's a new story, what a great starting point, but also like, what are all the words we use? What are all the strategies we use? What's a dungeon? What's a trial? What's a raid? What's a stack mechanic? What's a vuln stack? Like, can just teach us the fundamentals of Final Fantasy XIV. And it would have to do all of that. And that's why I don't think it would be 7.0 unless 7.0 is late. Like, I don't think they'll talk about timeline yet. But what if 7.0 kicks us back out to the summer? What if there's an extra 6 months of 6.0?
I think that's what he should address now, because I think that's news that you share now. And I think you drop that with news of saying, like, and guys, typically we do a 0.5 and a 0.6, 0.55 and a 0.58, and there's this bigger gap. But it's like at that point, like, we want to kind of reset the timeline and schedule. And so we're planning out a 0.6. We're going to officially call it a 0.6. And that's going to be what it is. And then all of a sudden 7.0, summer, that's what we're targeting, in that vein. Like, that's a big commitment, right? Because hopefully, like, nothing else comes along and be like, well, you're planning for a year, and then also another delay, bigger delay that hits the world happens, and you're like back into the winter because you accidentally, so there's a lot of things that it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I think I'd love to see talk about the grand companies. Obviously, the Grand Company of Eorzea is like basically responsible now for that, and so like is our character going to be more part of the Grand Company of Eorzea, and essentially like that mission is more people funnel into the Grand Company as adventurers and less about the Warrior Light and what kind of threats, etc. would the Grand Company of Eorzea have to face. A lot of that we believe is rebuilding of like Garlemald and that nation and how that's going to like happen, and how does the world rebuild and explore, and what new threats are going to face us on the horizon. I think that's going to be something that I'd like to see him kind of like touch on, what aspects of like, okay, well, what are we doing now?
When did Ishgard Restoration start and Sky Steel Tools?
They were always kind of planned for the like.
When did we rebuild?
I think it started in 0.2.
Was it 0.1?
I think it was planned. I think essentially when you started looking at it, they're like, hey, but they never had they never said it firmly, and then it ended up happening, I think, in the 0.2s, or
because 0.1 was the poetic step, and so 0.2 was when it really started in earnest, but it began in 0.1 technically.
Fido says
the gun went off in 0.1 and the race started. We just came out of the gate.
Yeah, maybe there was a shorter.
Oh, you turned in poetics and you're done. Enjoy your 3.5 months, and you were like, all right.
I think Fido's saying 0.5, 1.5.
Okay. So we could see the start of a relic.
Well, and that's usually where it was. Like the relic used to start in the 1.1, and it slipped back based off the content, and so that'd be kind of nice to see it kind of claw its way backwards to being more part of that original. Kind of like, hey, now that you've done the story, and you can start this bigger grind that's going to happen over the course of all of these various patches. So that'll be interesting to see. Yeah, I would agree. I think I'd love to see that. But yeah,
Island Sanctuary. Where do you put it?
Oh. At this point now, I would have to say 0.2. It'd be a real shocker if they were like, and it's ready. Being that we haven't like even seen anything on it.
It's perfect to pair with Savage content, right? Something that is intentionally set casual, intentionally relaxed. Not to be gear progression, intentionally not to be meant to be competitive. All these things that he's kind of referred to. He's mostly told us all the things it's not going to be. He hasn't really told us anything it's going to be. But it would be really nice, like the same way Ultimate should pair really nicely with the Alliance raids. A Savage raid getting Island Sanctuary, and then the Alliance raid being big, 24-man, and then the Deep Dungeon in 0.3. Being more solo to 4-man, more intimate sized. I think like there's a nice cadence there of like offering something for everybody. We should get our first Beast Tribe in 0.1.
And that's why it's like I agree with chat talking about like how 6.1 would be pretty stacked. So and also 6.2, the new raid. So that would be new Savage, so that could actually kind of be paired well with the kind of like, hey, we got a little bit more relaxed content to go along with the next raid series.
Now we were told that we were getting Elephant and Rabbit Beast Tribes. We assume there will be a third, which I would guess takes place in the last zone. I'd guess it'd be a robot beast tribe.
That'd be cool.
So Who do you put as the battle? So I would think rabbits are crafting. So I would put the elephants as battle, but like they could be
I
gathering.
would do the robots as battle.
So then do they come first?
I probably would put
you
them
dangled
first.
2 beast tribes in front of us leading to the expansion, and the first one out of the gate is neither of them.
Yeah, like I would say probably elephants might be more either gathering because you're gathering for the
fish,
fishing and whatnot, and then you have the the rabbits for crafting, magic creation. I don't know, like it's gonna be interesting.
I hope the stakes are low. I'm gonna be really bummed. This is immediately like and everything.
Oh, and everything's about to end again. What? Oh man,
we didn't really actually be back anything.
The at the end of the day, like I'm oh man, I'm wondering, like, am I like, because I won't have information, so I literally be coming in, chances are 2 to 3 hours behind this wave of information. And the question is that do I log in and you're like, oh my god, Brian, oh my gosh, how do I process this? So that's what I feel is going to end up probably happening the most.
Odds are you hop in and they're still in the middle of presenting.
Oh yeah.
Odds are, like, we can't even have a bunch of fanfare and catch you up. You're just coming in mid-sentence. And you're asking what people who, get off work and show up in the middle of the night. Did they talk about this yet?
No. Shut up. Quiet.
Go over it all at the end. And so we'll, it'll be an interesting way for us to present. It's going to go late into the night.
Yeah.
So like so my wife and I keep everything in our calendar.
Mm-hmm.
So I scheduled, my calendar says Chris is working from 7 p.m. to 2 a.m. And there's a very good chance that at 2, you and I are still filming,
talking. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be wild, guys. That's kind of our discussion, especially as it relates for that. You can tune in and hang out with us Friday. Hopefully, we're all gonna be having lots of information to nerd out about, be excited about for the future. And so, yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Be cool.
If they even mention other like platforms that finally could come, Xbox.
It's crazy that all of our we're gonna tip the table over stuff didn't include Brian getting the Xbox version. Didn't even make the list.
I'm more interested in content. I mean, and we could talk about this more in another video. But I'm just more interested in content because it's like one of the things that I feel like I have a healthy relationship with this game is that I know the pattern, and there's no oh, Brian, are you gonna kill yourself and get everything to 90 within the first 60 days? No. It's like
we made a good stab. We knocked out the first half of the
I've got a huge chunk done, but it's like, I'm not gonna sit here and and then it's like, and then to see the chatter.
Lost Ark.
It's just such a pattern. Oh, Lost Ark's great.
And Guild Wars right around the corner.
Guild Wars, and then people are trying to pull me back in.
Lost Ark. You're what? 20,
no, I'm like 20. Yeah, I'm making my progress. I haven't found an arc yet. I'm still missing some arcs.
It's still lost.
It's still lost.
Yeah,
and then people are trying to get me to get Destiny 2 next week. They're like, hey Brian, come join us in Destiny. It's like, okay, I'm thinking about it. So
when's the new stuff for Destiny drop?
Next week.
An Old Republic just got an expansion stuff just dropped, I think.
Yeah, and then we got a Triangle Strategy coming out in March. Jeez Louise, Elden Ring.
If you remove MMO from the qualifier of what's coming out, there's 20 games a day. You'd have to play 60 hours of games every day.
What piqued my ears on Destiny, Muko Card, was the fact that they're saying, hey, finally they're doing some PvP maps and stuff, and they actually have a rollout plan.
22nd, same day as WoW 9.2, Eternity's whatever.
Woo.
It's big because 9.2 it contains the half patch that's going to merge Horde and Alliance.
Horde and Alliance coming together,
and Dungeons, Raids, and PvP.
Yeah. Well, guys, if you have if you just hung out all the way to the end of this video, note there's a crazy ton amount of games that are coming out, and it's gonna be nuts. So hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like, leave a comment, and we'll see you guys in our next video. But until then,
take care.